Hello and welcome to lecture 6 of the topology lecture series. Let me apologize for being late to upload the video this week. In fact, next week also there would be certain delay due to some unavoidable circumstances. I wish to also apologize for the disruption in the last couple of minutes of the last video. So we will get start from where the disruption started to surface. So quick recollection of what we did in the last lecture. We defined what we mean by basis for a topology on a set X. We looked at a couple of examples. One of the important examples that we looked at was a particular example, collection I of open intervals in the real line is a basis for a topology on R. This is the important takeaway from last lecture. Today we will quickly recollect what we mean by a metric space. So I was recollecting this in the last lecture when there was disruption and I couldn't complete it. So let me recollect what we mean by a metric on a set X. Metric on a set X is basically a function D from X cross X into collection of all non-negative real numbers satisfying few conditions. First requirement is d of xy is 0 if and only if x equals y. Look, by definition, d of xy will always be greater than or equal to 0 because that is what is our codomain. For any pair of points x and y in X, d of xy should always be greater than or equal to 0. That is by requirement. In particular, d of xy or distance I would refer it to as distance between x and y will be 0 provided, in fact, if and only if x equals y. That's the first requirement. Second requirement is d of xy is the same as d of yx. So so distance between x and y should be the same as distance between y and x. And the third requirement is distance between x and z is less than or equal to distance between x and y plus distance between y and z. Now this is what is called a triangular inequality. So we say D is a metric on X provided D satisfies all the three above conditions for all X, Y and Z from X. So for any X, Y and Z in X, we would like the triangular inequality to hold true, and for any 2 points X and Y in X, we would like the first two conditions to hold true. So for any 3 points in X, we want all of these conditions, 3 conditions to hold true. Then we would call the function D as a metric on the set X. And in such case, we call the pair, the set together with a metric space. Let us look at a few examples. There's a trivial example that we'll start off with. Let X be a non-empty set. Define D from X cross X into collection of all non-negative real numbers as follows. As follows. For every X, Y in X, define D of X, Y to be 0 if X is not equal to Y, 1 if X equals Y. Okay. So distance between any 2 points, any 2 different points. It should be the other way around. So distance between any 2 points, D of X, Y will be 1 if X is not equal to Y. It would be 0 if X equals Y. I had written it the other way around. I have corrected it. So I have defined a function from X cross X into set of all non-negative real numbers such that for every X and Y in X, this D of XY is 1 if X is not equal to Y, 0 if X is equal to Y. Check. This is an exercise. Check D is a metric on X. Check that. It's not a very difficult check because the function assumes only 2 values. It is very important that a serious audience will check this. It's very important. So I expect you to check it. If you have difficulty, in that case you can mail it to me, your difficulty. I'll try to resolve your difficulty. Since this part, the checking part, is left as an exercise, so such a function D has a name. Such a metric D has a name. D is called, or above D, above defined D metric D is called discrete metric on X. And now there's a reason why it's called discrete metric. We'll come to that in some time. but check that it's a metric. In that case, and it has a name. It's called the discrete metric. Second example. Second example is something you should be familiar from real analysis. So consider a function d, let me call it de from r cross r into set of all non-negative real numbers, where for every x and y real number we define de of xy to be absolute value of x minus y. Check also, you might have seen this in your real analysis class, but then if you haven't, in that case check also that de is a metric on R. In fact, it also has a name, de. This e, subscript e, is due because de is called the Euclidean metric. Euclidean metric on R. You have to check this also. Again, this is not a difficult check. Of course, it has certain intricacies you need to look into. Now, there is a generalization of this. There is also a analogous de on Rn where for where let u and v be elements of Rn for n greater than or equal to 1, then let me choose n to be greater than or equal to 2 because the above example deals with the case n equals 1. Then u is an n tuple, v is also an n tuple. So call u to be x1, x2, x3, tuple x3 all the way up to xn, v to be y1, y2, y3 all the way up to yn. So elements of Rn are basically n tuples where their coordinates are real numbers with xi's and yi's are real numbers for I lying between 1 and n. Okay. So elements of Rn are n tuples of ordered n tuples of real numbers. Now we define de of uv to be positive square root of sum of xi minus yi square let me write it neatly. It is positive square root of this de of uv is positive square root of sum of xi minus yi squared for I ranging from 1 to n. You should be familiar with such a formula for cases n equals 2 and n equals 3 when you do analytical geometry. So again check DE is a metric on Rn for n greater than or equal to 2, and DE is called the Euclidean metric on Rn. Okay. So these are some very standard examples of metric. Well, let me also give you two more examples of metric on R2. Of course, you have the Euclidean metric on R2. Apart from this, there are two more, or there are several more. Prominent among them are the following. For U and V in R2, in that case, U will be x1, x2, V would be y1, y2. U and V will be order pairs with coordinates which are real numbers. Define d, I think it's called d infinity of uv. It is basically maximum of absolute value of x1 minus y1, x2 minus y2. Okay, what you do is, in order to define distance between u and v, first you look at the differences of the corresponding look at absolute value of differences of the corresponding coordinates and pick up maximum out of the both. And there is something called d1 of uv, which is basically absolute value of x1 minus y1 plus absolute value of x2 minus y2. Again, I will not go into the proof of all of this. It could be found in any standard textbook. Check that both the infinity and d1 are metric on R2. Okay. So these are some examples of metric spaces. So let us go back to our discussion on metric spaces. Let XD be a metric space and x0 be a point in X and R be greater than 0, some real number. The set of all points y in X whose distance from x0, whose d distance from x0 is less than r. This set, what is this set? This is set of all points of X such that distance between x0 and y is less than r. D distance, that is the metric that we are considering. This set, the above set, is called open ball of radius r centered around the point x0, and it is usually denoted by the notation B D x naught R, and it has to be read as open ball of radius R centered around the point x naught. And what does it contain? It contains all points in x whose distance, all points in x whose distance from x naught is less than R. Okay. You can check that. No, check that. For an x naught in R, the Euclidean open ball. Look what metric I am considering. I am considering metric TE on R. The Euclidean open ball of radius R centered at x naught is actually open interval x naught minus R, x naught plus R for R greater than 0. Euclidean open balls in R are basically open intervals. So for an x naught in R with Euclidean metric and a positive radius R, Euclidean open ball of radius R centered at x naught is basically open interval x naught minus R, x naught plus R. You need to check this. Okay. Check. And the converse is also true. That is, every open interval in R is actually a Euclidean open ball. So for A and B in R with such that A is less than B, then open interval AB is actually a Euclidean open ball of radius B minus A by 2 and center A plus B by 2. You can check this again. Check. This is a very simple elementary check, so I will not go into detail of all of that. Again, you might have already seen these things in your real analysis course. For any open interval in R with infimum A and supremum B, turns out to be a Euclidean open ball of radius B minus A by 2 and center A plus B by 2. So, but what did we see in the last class? That is, collection of all open intervals form a basis for a topology on R. So taking clue from that, we would like to ask if BD is collection of all open balls in a metric space XD, will BD be a topology, be a basis for topology on X? That's the question. If open intervals, which are basically Euclidean open balls, can together form a basis in basis for a topology on R, so why could not it be the case in general? That's the question. So consider BD to be collection of all open balls with center any point of X and radius any non-negative real number. Let that be our BD. Claim BD is a basis for a topology on X. So this was the question. The answer to that question is yes, and we'll demonstrate. So that's basically our claim, that BD is a basis for a topology in the set X. So for BD to be a basis for a topology on X, two things are required. One, the union of all elements of BD has to be equal to X. That meaning every point X in X, for every point Y in X, let's say for every point Y in X, there exists a BY in BD such that Y belongs to BY. That's the first requirement. So it basically means every point of X is in some point of BD. And second requirement, if Y happens to be in B1 intersection B2 for B1 and B2 in BD, there should exist a B3 in BD, a third element, such that Y belongs to B3, and B3 is completely contained in B1 intersection B2. So these are the two requirements which BD has to satisfy for it to be a basis for topology on the set X. Let's see if BD satisfies that requirement. So before even going there, note that for X in X and R greater than 0, BDXR is basically all those points Y in X such that distance between Y and X is less than R. This is how an open ball is defined. Now the important claim is, and the first thing that a natural question is, for a given X and a given R, is there a Y satisfying this condition? That is BDXR, that is an open ball of radius R centered at X non-empty? So is there a point Y in X whose distance from X is less than R, where R is some positive real number? The answer to this question is also yes. Check that the center itself belongs to the open ball. That's because distance between X and X is 0, and 0 is certainly less than R. That is by the way we have chosen our R. Okay. So open balls are always non-empty. In fact, in particular they contain their center all the time. This is helpful in concluding 1. So let's see why 1 is true. So for every Y in X, we should be able to find a by in BD such that y belongs to by. So for any given y in x, we need to find an open ball with a positive radius and centered at a point in x such that y belongs to it. So why not choose that open ball to be of center y? So for any given y in x, y belongs to, certainly y belongs to open ball of radius 1 centered at y, which in turn is an element of BD. Y happens to be the center of open ball of radius 1 centered at y. But this open ball is also an element of BD. So what is our BY? BY could be this open ball of radius 1 centered at y. In fact, this is not the only choice for by. In fact, you could have changed your center. I mean, you could have changed your radius. You have infinitely many choices for the radius. You could have chosen any one of them in particular. So the safest bet is, if you want a point of x to be in some open interval, choose an open ball. Choose an open ball with that particular element as its center, because every open ball always contains its center. So y happens to be an element of open ball of radius, any positive radius, in particular 1, centered at y. So that satisfies condition 1. Now to see why 2 is true, let y be an element of x such that y happens to belong to B1 intersection B2 for B1 and B2 in BD. Okay. Now, since B1 and B2 belongs to BD, and since BD is collection of all open balls, so B1, so D1 happens to be open ball of radius R1 centered at A1, and B2 happens to be open ball of radius R2 centered at A2 for A1 and A2 in X, and R1 greater than 0 and R2 greater than 0. Okay, and since y happens to belong to B1 intersection B2, this would imply y belongs to B1. That would in turn mean distance between y and A1 is less than R1, and since y belongs to B2, distance between A2 and y and A2, let's say y and A2 is less than R2. And I'm just using the definition, that's it. Now, then what happens is that we want a B3 satisfying we want a B3 in BD such that y happens to belong to B3 and B3 is contained a subset in B1 intersection B2. Since we want a B3 in BD, B3 has to be an open ball. So we need uh, A3 in X and R3 greater than 0 such that Y belongs to open ball of radius R3 centered at A3, and this is completely contained in a subset in B1 intersection B2. So how do we do it? We can take uh, we can take you know, a schematic approach. So let this be an open ball of radius R1 centered at A1. Let there be another open ball of radius R2 centered at E2, and our point X is somewhere here. Okay, so what we do is as our point Y, sorry, our point Y is somewhere here. Okay, so we want an open ball of radius A3 centered at we want an open ball of radius R3 centered at A3, such that all of this is true. So we also want Y to be in this, right? So uh, choose A3 to be Y. So in that case, we would want an we would want an open ball of radius, we want an open ball centered at Y, which is completely contained in this intersection. So what do we know? We know that this distance is less than R2. We know that this distance is less than R1. So we have to manage to find an R3 such that all of this is true. So A3 we have fixed. We would like to have Y as A3. That's because then this condition will be obvious. If I choose my center to be Y itself, then of course Y belongs to this open ball. The only thing that I have to choose is what should be my R3. Choose R3 to be, taking a clue from the picture, Now, note that distance between a1 and y is less than r. So sorry, less than r1. That would imply that r1 minus distance between a1 and y is greater than 0. Call this as s1. Okay. Similarly, distance between a2 and y is less than r2. That would mean if I call r1 minus distance between a2 and y to be s2, this is certainly greater than 0. So I will choose my r3 using s1 and s2. So choose r3 to be minimum smaller of s1 and s2. Why should you do that? Well, yeah, so that then you can manage to fit in this entire open ball in this intersection region. Okay, so it seems like magic immediately as I write it down, but then uh, when you look at this schematic picture closely, it will not be so mysterious. Okay, clearly by the way we have chosen our R3, it is certainly greater than 0 because S1 and S2 are both greater than 0. Claim open ball of radius R3 centered at Y, of course contains Y, but of course this is true, so I don't even have to prove it. But then what I need to prove is this open ball is contained in B1 intersection B2. So let x belongs to BD. I can choose x. Let x belongs to BD y r3. That is, distance between x and y is less than r3. Okay. My claim is y belongs to b1. That would require and y belongs to b2. Now this will happen provided the above is true. It is enough to prove above. It is enough to show distance between a1 and x is less than r1 and distance between a2 and x is less than r2. Now let's see what is distance between x and y. It is less than r3, but r3 is less than r1. Sorry, s1. That is because R3 was chosen minimum of both S1 as well as S2. So R3 is less than or equal to S1. This would mean that distance between X and Y is less than S1. What is S1? S1 is R1 minus, it is R1 minus distance between A1 and Y. So this would imply that distance between x and y plus distance between a1 and y is less than r1, but this value on the left hand side, this value by triangular inequality, we have this sum is greater than, so distance between x and a1 is less than or equal to distance between x and y plus distance between a1 and y, and that is less than r1. So that would mean that distance between x and a1 is less than r1. So this would mean x belongs to b1. Similarly, you can demonstrate by using triangular inequality. That x belongs to b2. Thus, x belongs to b1 intersection b2. That would mean that open ball of radius r3 centered at y is a subset of b1 intersection b2. That would mean that BD, the collection of all open balls, is a basis for topology in the set X. Okay. We will in the next class discuss how to use a basis for a topology to actually generate a topology on the set. Okay. That we shall look into the next class. In the next class. That next lecture probably would be uploaded by Wednesday next week. So I hope you would excuse me for the delay. Thank you very much. Let's stop at this point.